Welcome to Driven to Lead. I'm your host, Wayne Brandon. In this series, we explore the real world stories of key executives to find the leadership lessons that help move us all forward. If you like these conversations, we'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe and like button. It'll help us out a lot. But now we got another great program for you today, so let's make it happen. Well, welcome again. We have a great program for you today. A very interesting guest, Eric Corey Freed, likes to be called Eric. He's the Director of Sustainability at Canon Design, an award-winning architect and 13-time author, a global speaker, also a TEDx speaker. He's the author of a new book coming up called Frictionless. It's overcoming the drags that shut down innovation. Should be out in a couple of months. Hopefully, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Eric has lectured all over the world, including all 50 U.S. states, 7 of the 9 Canadian provinces. He's spoken in 9 countries. He is an accomplished guy who has more credits to his name than we can accomplish. He's fun, he's interesting, and he's also very humble and probably going to be embarrassed if I go on too much further. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is painful to listen to your own bio, but thank you for having me.
It is. And yours goes on for miles. So it's a great testament to all the things you've done. If nothing else, you've been busy, my friend. Tell me about what you do and what you're doing and what you're passionate about.
I I feel that we are all in service to one another. And I don't mean in like a hippie kumbaya kind of way. I really mean that our job on earth is to make the world a better place. That is our duty. That is how I raised my daughter, right? We'll see if I succeeded or not. But but it's one of the few things I actually take very, very seriously is this idea. And I found very early on that my job, my skill, maybe my superpower is that I am a filter. I take complex information and I filter it so people can understand it and make it actionable. Now, I chose to be an architect. I always knew I wanted to be an architect. I was drawing when I was a little kid, but I found through architecture I could have this idea of helping make my contribution to make the world a better place. So to that end, I'm principal and director of sustainability at a large firm called Canon Design. We're what we call a top 10 firm,
Hmm.
whatever that means. Uh, and then as you mentioned, I write books, I speak, I consult, I sit on nonprofit boards. I've helped start nonprofits with friends, really all in idea of this service. How do we make the world a better place? What would a better place even look like? What does it need to be? And it's a question I've struggled with, I think, my whole life.
Well, it's a tremendous way to lead your life. I wish more of us did that explicitly because being in service to others makes everything better. And I think you pursue it in some unique ways as well. So as I look through the books that you've written and some of the talks you've given, I was impressed that you've got this kind of these dual pillars of innovation and sustainability that kept kind of coming up again and again. Tell me about how those things play together and how happy you are about where we are as a world in your work or in general with innovation and sustainability.
Gosh. Well, first of all, if you're a designer, an architect, anyone who's creating things, I don't think you're ever truly happy because think about what this kind of life means. It means everywhere you go, every restaurant, every hotel, every time you visit a friend at their house, all you're thinking is what you would change,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
right? You're just it's a blessing and a curse, really.
Right.
But um but the other part of it is this is a bit of an epiphany for me. My entire career, I focused on sustainability. I focused on this idea of, as architects, we build buildings. Buildings have a huge, profound impact on the planet in terms of materials, in terms of health, in terms of energy, in terms of carbon. And really, my entire 35-year career has been focused on this idea of could we take responsibility for it? Could we help mitigate it? And the big epiphany I had just a few years ago was that we failed. The environmental movement has failed. I was born the same year as the first Earth Day, 1970. My entire life has been really devoted to this, and it's kind of sad to think about it, but I think that the modern environmental movement has failed. And the reason I say that is because we ended up in the exact spot we didn't want to be. All the things that climate scientists have been predicting for decades have now come true. The last 10 years have been the hottest years on record. The projections are going to get worse. 2026 is not over yet, but it will be one of the either second or third hottest year on record. Like we just know this now. So in a in a way, we failed. And for me, failure is data, right? I failed a lot in my life, like I think most people have. I've made a lot of mistakes, and to me, I always use them as data. How do I learn from the failure? So the last few years have really been focused on, okay, if we failed, what could we do better? What could we do again? What would we do differently knowing what we know now? And I think that's a lesson for
Yeah,
all leaders to take to heart.
it is. It's absolutely a great lesson. And I don't know. I think, failure is one way to look at it, but, we've made some progress because of people like you who are conscious of the sustainability goals we need to work through with everything we do. And I think our choice of materials is smarter. I think our recyclability is way ahead of where it was when I started in the auto industry years ago. I mean, I saw us evolve and get better. I mean, improving emissions and kind of the migration to electric vehicles will help us to at least until we get a better energy source. We're containing the energy production in some places. I mean, are we there? No. Have we failed? Probably. But I see people like you who are innovating and focusing on sustainability are moving us to a better and better place than we would have been otherwise. And from a business perspective, unfortunately, short-term, profitability and other success metrics are always the things that are driving, us forward as opposed to, innovation for sustainability and long-term positive effects. So we got to blend those together. So, I mean, good for you that you've been on this journey and you've made a lot more impact than I think you're giving yourself credit for.
Well, the whole movement is, yeah, we've done a lot of good. We've certainly had a lot of conversations, but the perception of environmentalists is, especially in certain parts of the country, because I work across all of North America, right?
Hmm.
The perception is sustainability is a dirty word. Environmentalists are seen as obstructionist, all things that really we did not intend. My mindset has been, okay, if that's the case, then really my job is to make them excited about this future. I think of it, remember in Glengarry Glen Ross, Alec
Hmm.
Baldwin's big speech,
Yeah.
and he's like, look, one of two things is going to happen. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't
Yeah.
remember the line, but he said one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to sell them that they need this, or they're going to sell you that they don't,
Hmm.
right? And I really take that to heart. And
Yeah.
so, my life, I don't know about everybody else listening, but my life is I walk into rooms, I'm introduced as, oh, this is our sustainability director. And the first thing facility managers say to me is, nice to meet you. Just so you know, I hate sustainability.
Really?
That's how people
Really?
say hello to me when I walk in a room, right? So
Yeah.
I'm already dealing at a deficit. And so I've learned very quickly, okay, then let's pivot. Forget about sustainability. Let's talk about you. What's driving you crazy? What's keeping you up at night? Tell me about
Right.
your current facilities. Where are you wasting money?
Hmm. Good
Right?
strategy. Good strategy.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little bit surprised by that because I never really thought of sustainability as a dirty word. I thought it was something everyone would embrace, and it's, but you're saying you're four over par on the first tee when you come in.
Yeah. And that's what this book is really about,
Yeah.
right? It's been 35 years of me walking into what I would call tough rooms
Yeah.
and really trying to sell them on innovative ideas. Think about what innovation is. Innovation is perceived by the brain as a threat, right?
Could be. Sure. It's change, right?
I'm coming in to make change. I'm coming in to disrupt the status quo,
Hmm.
and people will fight to keep the status quo. And this is not only reasonable and understandable, but it's also an evolutionary bit of protection. It's your brain trying
Hmm.
to protect you.
Hmm.
And so the book is saying, let's not fight this. Let's
Right.
understand it and lead into it.
Yeah, well, I think that's great. Anything we can learn from like that that takes your experience and looks at it, names it, lets people understand what the issue is so that we can all move forward and get better, I think is a worthy effort. So good for you. So
Oh,
what's next on your mission here with what you're doing at Canon Design or in your own personal endeavors?
Canon design is also so lovely and wonderful. The it's in the one hand, it is a 110-year-old architecture firm. It's been around for a long time. And in the last 10 years, we have pivoted and reinvented ourselves as an innovation firm. And this is the work of a lot of people. I'm really fortunate to work with a lot of really smart people. Sometimes I'll be sitting in meetings, like on a Teams call or a Zoom call,
Yeah.
and there's all the little faces, and people will speak, and I'm like, holy crap, what an impressive roster of nerds I work with. Yeah, it's really lovely, and it reminds me every single day that they're bringing their A game. Like we have people that are experts in behavioral health, or experts
Mhm.
in cancer center design, or
Very
experts in education, how to design a place for where K through 6 could really thrive.
right.
And they're experts in this, and they've devoted their lives and careers to really understanding this. And I'm sitting there saying, we should put solar panels on the roof. It's just, it's, but it reminds me that I have to bring my A game as well, because they're certainly bringing theirs. But really, the fascinating part to me is that the thing that we all have in common, even
Mhm.
though we're each fighting for our own little piece, is we're all trying to affect outcomes. And so to me, that was the biggest mindset shift. I'm not here to sell anybody ever on sustainability, because I've already seen what that looks like. I'm really here to sell you on the outcomes and benefits that sustainability could potentially provide. I'm here, as the joke that I tell my team is, we're here to sell the brownie and not the recipe. Nobody cares how much
Exactly
flour or
right.
baking soda or chocolate chips goes in the brownie. They just want the brownie. So let's find out what is important to them. What is the type of brownie they like, and let's really sell them on that. And we'll use sustainability to get there, absolutely. But it's an outcomes-based approach to really delivering for your client.
So, Eric, what you're telling us is you become a marketing guy after all.
Oh, I've always been. Yeah. I mean,
You're
remember, I'm on
you're
stages.
selling benefits, not
Yeah,
features.
I'm on stages. I speak at 50 events a year. That's like one a
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
I do 100 workshops a year. That's two, it sounds like a lot, but it's two a week,
Yeah.
right? I'm the marketing team for my sustainability team.
Well, I like the approach you're taking. I just think it's good to kind of focus on the customer, what their needs are, and what they can actually, consume and maybe implement. So that's good, a good approach. So, last thing, before we get into the heart of the program here, what do you think is the most important characteristic a speaker needs to have? Since you're such an accomplished speaker and author, if we want to reach out to people, stand on stage and tell them something, let's say we know our area of expertise. What's the one thing we need to do to connect the audience and give a successful talk?
That it is so, first of all, great question. And I wish more people, frankly, would ask themselves that question before they get on the stage. But my answer, I don't know if it'll surprise you or not. My answer is one word: enthusiasm.
Hmm.
My favorite thing is when I come off stage and I'm chatting with people from the audience, and they say, "Man, you really had a fun time up there. You really enjoyed yourself up
That's
there."
great.
I'm like, "Yes, I did, but I'm glad
Really
you
good. Yeah.
glad you picked up on it." Yeah, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
I think people have a natural filter or a natural way to understand. They can tell when you're being sincere and genuine, and when you're effusive about it. And so I'm excited about the messages that I deliver on stages, and I'd like to think that that comes across.
I love it. I think that's exactly right. It's a part of being authentic and genuine, and to see that part of yourself where you're vulnerable as well. You're not just, delivering information or too full of yourself and you're letting your ego shine brightly. You're just saying, I'm here, I'm real, I'm going to tell you what I believe, and I want to have a dialogue. I think that's tremendous advice. So thanks for sharing
Well, also it's much cheaper than therapy, I find. You just go on a stage and just vent about
Yeah,
whatever's
you're right.
bothering me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So on this program, as you know, Eric, we like to have key executives, people with broad base of experience, tell us a story about something that happened somewhere along the way. It could be an ancient story, or it could be a recent story. And we'd just like to hear, set it up for us. What was going on? Who were the players? And then what happened? And let's you and I talk about that and see if we can teach some leadership lessons forward.
God, I've got you warned me this was coming, and I
Mm.
still couldn't pick a story because I have dozens of them. But
You have a
the
few.
the one the one that comes to mind, and this is a recent story. We have a client, um, and it's a children's hospital in California. I think that's protects all the innocent
Yeah.
parties here. Now, children's hospitals are one of my favorite project types to work on, because the people, I mean, good night. The people working there are doing the world's best work, right? They are literally saving lives. And it's a very humbling experience, frankly, to go in there and like, hey, we're architects. We're gonna we're gonna build your new building for you, and we're just bowing to their greatness, right? And it's the doctors, the nurses, all the providers, all the executives. I mean, they're really dedicated to a mission, right? So first of all, you're walking in just in a very different mindset. Not that all projects aren't important, but cancer centers and children's hospitals, especially, I feel a reverence for. The other weird part of it is you need to realize that everyone coming to a children's hospital is terrified, right? They're either about to get a diagnosis that could unfortunately change their life or embark on a treatment that hopefully will save their life. But everyone coming there is terrified. And because they're children that we're bringing to these places, we make them very colorful. There's always a logo like a bear or a clown or a bear dressed as a clown or, there's a lot of kites for some reason, right? And we've worked on hundreds of children's hospitals across the country, and they have that in common, right?
Mhm.
So we were completing a new patient tower, a bed tower for them, building on their campus. We've done many buildings on this client's campus before, and it started a conversation around sustainability that they had never had before, that they had frankly been putting off. They've been avoiding for years, which again is understandable. They have done it, and one thing led to another, and before you knew it, they asked me, "Well, could you help us do our first ever sustainability plan?" So we were doing that. We interviewed so many people throughout the staff. We put together our initial findings, and then we had the big day came. They put together a retreat. It was the entire board, so their CEO, their entire
Right.
C-suite, and then they really overwhelmed us. They impressed us with this assembly of kind of key providers and department heads. And so it was everybody in the same room. And as soon as that happens, you realize, oh, they don't do this often. They don't get this group of people together. And you could tell, I mean, as a facilitator, I could tell because they were like, hi, and hugging, and like they were
Yeah.
meeting for the first time. And like I knew your name, but we're
Yeah.
meeting each other.
Right.
Well, magic is already going to happen when you have a room like that. When you have these kind of interdisciplinary folks locked in a hotel ballroom, essentially, right? And they didn't know what sustainability meant. As I said, they've been kind of avoiding it and putting it off and not really getting it. And they kept thinking sustainability was about recycling. And so we're facilitating this thing, and I'm saying to them, okay, what else could we do that goes beyond the campus in terms of sustainability? And they said, look, we're already recycling as much as we can. What more do you want from us? That was their kind of attitude.
Right.
And I said, forget all that. Forget sustainability in general. Just think about your campus. What could we do that would live beyond the boundaries of the campus? And someone stood up and said, we've got all this demographic data for the county around childhood obesity. And someone else on the other side of the room said, we have the same numbers for childhood asthma and childhood diabetes.
Mhm.
Oh, and they start like realizing, oh, we should talk. Someone else stood up and said, we do a farmer's market on campus once a week. What if we moved it off campus? Someone else stood up and said, we have this data of where the food deserts are in our county. We should pick where we put the farmers market based on where the food deserts are, and we could tie it to childhood nutrition and education. And then it was like I am Spartacus. Everybody just started standing up and saying, "Well, I've got this and I've got that." Meanwhile, I'm as a facilitator, I know just to shut the
Shut
hell
up.
up.
Yeah.
I'm just letting the magic happen. Right? I'm not doing anything. I just know not to interrupt the flow. And then finally, the CEO, and she's amazing. She stood up and as most CEOs do, she put the pieces together and she said, what if we just commit right here and now? What if we just commit to abolishing childhood obesity, childhood diabetes, and childhood asthma and really dedicate ourselves to doing that? And then that became the galvanizing feature for their sustainability plan. And I was in tears, right?
Mhm.
I mean, again, I didn't do anything except ask a childlike question and they just ran with it. That's what happens when you get a bunch of people in the room. And, as any good facilitator will tell you, when that happens, you just get out of the way.
Get out of the way. Yeah, for sure. What a great story that is. And it's so indicative of so many organizations and so many businesses who get siloed in one way or another and they operate for long periods of time without looking at the bigger picture and integrating the way that they could. And I love this story just at the beginning when you're saying they're hugging and saying hello because they never met in person, or
Yeah.
they talked on the phone but they hadn't been face to face. So when you saw this happening, were you observing the CEO before she got up and spoke? Were you observing the other leaders and what they were? I mean, I can imagine the expressions on their face were interesting.
We didn't start with that meeting. That was the other key, right?
Okay.
I definitely want to go prepared into a meeting like that. So
Hmm.
before that, we had had one-on-one meetings with everybody. There's a phenomenon, and this is not just true in architecture. This is true across
Hmm.
the board. There's this phenomenon called hippo,
Hmm.
the highest paid person,
Hmm.
in the room.
Hmm.
And usually everybody defers to when the hippo speaks, right? So
Hmm.
whoever the highest paid person or the biggest title person speaks, everybody else
Right.
is in deference to them. So I learned very early on, all right, let me meet with people one on one first and get a lay of the land. I'm if anything a good observer of people, and I can tell when people want to speak but won't. And in my workshops, I'll often say, "You look like you were going to say something," and I feel like my job is to pull threads,
Yeah.
really, or they'll furrow their brow, and I'm like, "Oh, you don't agree with that?"
You're
I'll
right.
I call people out, right? So first we meet with people one on one, and you get the real skinny, right? You get the real dirt about stuff. And I'm just having a conversation with them. They're not being interrogated, right? I'm just like, hey, what would you change? What are you mad about? What are you sad about? What are you glad about? Just kind of having these conversations. And you build up these tools, especially over 35 years of doing this. You build up these tools of getting people to open up and share. And then you put a meeting like that together. And we go in prepared with I think it was a 4 hour workshop, and the joke was that we came with 8 hours of material, right? We always, because you never know what's going to work and what isn't. And,
Exactly.
and if something isn't working, I'll just drop it and move on, right? I don't need to go through the whole thing. So you want to come armed with a lot of activities and a lot of questions and really see what's working. And you never know what's going to hit until the day. It's almost like doing improv, improv theater in a way. Because I don't know what the crowd's going to give me, and I don't know what they're going to be, ready to do. My job is just to pull these threads and see where they lead.
Well, it's great that you were prepared for it and you had some expectations. I asked the question because I expect that there was a lot of interest, there was a lot of pride maybe that was emerging. So when the hippo rose and made her comments, did the audience immediately embrace it? Was there a standing ovation? Was there like a yeah, that's what we're going to do, or was there people laying back and being afraid, or what happened?
Oh no, so the reaction was immediate, but they don't see themselves as hierarchical. At least I didn't perceive it that way.
Okay.
So yeah, everybody has their titles and whatnot, but this was the C-suite and all the department heads and leaders. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, they immediately started like chiming in, like, "Oh my God, that's great, and this is wonderful." But then that became the organizing principle for the rest of the afternoon, right? Was just okay. Let's do that. I love this phenomenon of finding the killer metric, just what I call the North Star metric.
Hmm.
And for a lot of our organizations, they are mission-driven organizations, right? A children's hospital is easy, right? Their mission is, I mean, it's literally written on the wall in the lobby when you walk in. But when we work with universities, when we work with companies, anybody we work with, they have a mission that they'll state publicly, but they also will have maybe an unspoken North Star metric. And one of the workshop exercises I do is to get to that North Star metric. For example, let's use Netflix. Everybody knows what Netflix is. Netflix thought their North Star metric was more subscribers. And they realized every time they would pursue subscribers through attrition, they would lose more. That was not their North Star metric. They realized they needed to pivot, and their North Star metric is hours spent watching.
Hmm.
So that means everything they're doing is in service to that metric. So that is why instead of being a 2 hour movie, it is an 8 part miniseries, right?
Hmm.
They want you to spend more hours watching because they know, rightfully so, that if I
Hmm.
spend 8 hours watching a docuseries about Rutherford B. Hayes, which I did, and it's really good.
Okay.
Uh, if I do that, I'm gonna tell my wife, I'm gonna tell my friends, they're gonna all gonna watch, they're gonna see they're gonna see
Exactly.
Netflix as being an invaluable part of their lives, and
Right.
they're gonna sign up. And So I do that with the clients. What is your North Star metric? What is driving you? And for that hospital, by the way, their North Star metric was the decibel level of laughter in the hallways.
Hmm. Interesting. That's a very good one,
And
actually. I didn't.
everything was in service to, will this add laughter to the hallways? Yes or no? It becomes very clear cut.
Yeah.
And I love that North Star metric. I love finding that with them together. And then they will light up when you find it because they will say to you, oh my God, this is so who we are. This is why I work here.
Exactly. Isn't that a beautiful
Bing,
thing?
bing, bing. Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
everyone recognizes it when you find it, and
Yes.
that really that's the reason they had already been successful. They were already bringing joy to people's lives. They were already solving problems that needed to be solved that were often sad and difficult because they really wanted to create this reality in their world. And then so that when you see that, you hear it, you say, yes, that's it immediately
Yeah.
and toward it. It's great leadership to find those North Star metrics, as you call it. And I love that term for it because I think it's great. So, was there in this workshop, or was there a continued involvement with this group? I assume because you were there for some sort of agricultural purpose, whether you're building a new wing or remodeling what they had or whatever you were doing. Did there emerge then some features of the structure, the architecture that actually guided your work and your success with getting them to have a more sustainable future with their architecture?
Well, that thing went in the reverse order. First, we'd done multiple buildings on their campus in the past. We were just about to complete
Okay.
this new tower building. And then they said, when it was 85% complete, they said, huh, we should do a sustainability plan. So it was a little backwards, but that's what life does.
Yeah.
But what was great is it made us look beyond the one building we were doing and look at all of their buildings, look at their entire campus, look at their future plans for the campus. So yeah, the deliverable for us was really a full-born sustainability plan. And we designed these things not to be little binders that sit on a shelf and get dusty.
Hmm.
They're really designed to be dog-eared and used and marked
Hmm.
up and because it's really their roadmap to a lot of these outcomes. Remember, it's an outcomes based approach. So, what are the outcomes that are important to them? And here's your roadmap, literally step by step by step to get there. And so we leave them with this tool, for lack of a better word, right? The last thing I want is a report that's just going to just sit there.
Yeah, but it seems to me that just to give you credit for even more than what I think you're taking credit for is you're not only leaving them that, you're leaving them with a new mindset and a way to think about what they do differently. Do you get called in when it's not an architectural assignment? Do you get called in
Yeah.
to do this kind of thing? I expect you would because the kind of prep you did for the workshop, the way you led, you knew when to get out of the way, knew when to jump in. You helped them to formulate this plan and have it be a living document. I mean, that's valuable stuff. I mean, I can think of 100 organizations that need that in spades right now.
Well, every organization should go through that process themselves. I mean, personally, I'm a huge fan of. I do goal setting twice a year. I do it over Christmas because it's quiet and slow,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so I start the new year with this clarity that I really
Hmm.
need, and then I do it again. My birthday is in August, so I do it again in August where I revisit it.
Hmm.
And I find that I need that clarity, and that's just for my own nonsense, right? My own, just my own
Yeah,
life.
right.
And so we do this for organizations, this same kind of clarity piece of, what were our goals last year that we didn't accomplish? Why didn't we accomplish them? Remember, again, failure is data. Why are we still holding on to this as a goal? What is it representing to us? And then really trying to get us excited and then turning that into actionable steps. Again, a roadmap to do this. So we do this for a lot of organizations. Sometimes for us, it usually starts with we're called in to do a building or we're called in to do a master plan for the campus, and
Hmm.
then we're adding this sustainability component. But really, a lot of our clients tell me that they feel like they're in therapy when I'm because I'm asking them questions of like, how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
And and so it's a lovely engagement of the process. By the way, my colleagues were jealous when they heard you spend how much time with the CEO
Yeah.
for the sustainability. We never get that much time with the CEO for the
Right.
building.
Right.
So I love that they were a little bit jealous that I got so much FaceTime with the C-suite.
Yeah, good for you. Well, you're adding some real value. That's why you got the time. So good on you. So as we wrap up this conversation, there's so many hundreds of things I'd love to talk with you about. We could do it for hours. Maybe we'll do this again sometime, Eric. But I like to ask
Anytime.
my guests a couple of questions to wrap up. So Now that you've been around the block a few times, you got a few years under your belt,
Uh-huh.
you got another birthday coming up in August. They just keep coming. If you could rewind 25 years, 30 years, think back to a younger time in your life with everything you know now, what one piece of advice do you think would be most valuable you'd like to give your younger self?
So I'm fortunate that I actually get to do this because I teach at Boston Architectural College, BAC in Boston,
Hmm.
and specifically teach the thesis. I have people that reach out all the time that ask for advice. So I get to mentor
Perfect.
a lot of people
Hmm.
all the time, and they'll ask me that. What advice would you give to me? You know, kind of thing. And it varies from person to person a little bit, but generally the advice is just start, right? If we are truly here to make the world a better place, and remember, if they're talking to me, they're already kind of itching to do something.
Yeah.
What I find is that most people um, are worried that their life is going to be boring. They see the life that's laid out for them, right? Hey, you're going to work 30 years and then we'll give you a gold watch and you'll retire and move to Florida, right? That's right. That was the plan. That's what my father did.
Yeah.
That's what was laid out for me, and there's nothing wrong with it. But they want to explore and see if there's something else, I think. And so my advice is just start. Think about what you have today that we did not have back in the old days, right?
Yeah, literally.
You can record yourself for free on a device. You can broadcast it to the entire world for free. And so really the strength of your ideas is really what matters. And that's just an amazing thing. You could publish your thoughts and get them out to everybody for free
Hmm.
without having to go through the traditional channels or networks. That's why there are so many of these kind of young viral stars. Now they're doing it because they're making bird noises with their feet or whatever, right? But you can do this on the strength of your ideas. And there are, I speak at these conferences and we bring in these speakers that are just doing just that. They're doing these amazing things under the age of 30. And so I tell them just start and you don't need to do it alone, right? You're surrounded by people that will come to your aid. Remember the fundamental business model here is if you speak with enthusiasm and passion, it will draw people to you. So trust in that and
Hmm.
amazing things will happen.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I like the fact, I don't want to miss the point you made quickly and subtly, is that these people are coming to you. They already have a mission a little bit. They have a purpose in their life. They're trying to make a positive difference in the areas that you work in. And so I think that's that's like the first and most important thing. But once they have that, getting started and doing it and using the technology that they have available, that's an amazing piece of advice. And I'll bet you're driving a lot of people to do exactly just that.
I hope so.
Yeah, so let's fast forward the other direction. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we're sitting having a cup of coffee, talking about our lives, talking about our careers. What are you going to tell me you're most proud of?
uh, there's a lot of things that pride is not a word that I think about a lot, to be honest with you. I'm very fixated on what's next. I have trouble enjoying the present. When people say what's your favorite project, it's always the next one, right? So
Mhm.
it's a mental illness that I have. But um I think I'm very proud of uh the adult that my daughter is becoming. She just turned 18 and she's just a lovely human, which she's way better than my wife and I. She's the nice one in the family.
Yeah.
I've fixed up six couples that have gotten married.
Cool.
I don't know why I take pride in that, but I do. I love that I think of here's how I think of a life. If we're lucky, we're given 4,000 weeks of life, right? That's about 75 years.
Hmm.
And what you choose to do with that 4,000 weeks, that 168 hours a week, is really up to you. So your life is throwing stones and trying to create ripples. And so I think the reason why I love that I fixed up six couples who went on to get married and have kids is because that was me throwing stones and creating a lot of ripples that go beyond me. And ultimately, isn't that just the best thing you can ask for?
Absolutely. I mean, I think love is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. So if you can help people to find that, what better kind of impact could you have on the world? So I think it's great to be proud of that. And, I think inspiring people as you do to think differently, to move differently, to take action, like the advice you give to young people is all admirable things. And I think, someone like yourself who's, let's just say, very busy, you're going to create a lot of ripples, and those ripples are already having many impacts way beyond what you'll ever know. And I think that's a great aspect of what we can do if we stay focused on doing good things and moving in the right direction. And the last thing I'd say about what you commented on, as an executive coach, I work with people who are striving to become the highest expression of themselves all the time. And one of the things we have to work on is that with folks who spend too much time in the past or too much time in the future. The way you described is a very positive thing, but you've been in the present moment in our conversation here today, and I really appreciate that
Oh,
because
thank you.
you've added a lot of value. Before we go, I want to do one more thing. You've got this new book, Frictionless, coming up in a month or so. Tell us a little bit about that.
So this book is very different than my other books. My other books were, nerdy design books. This book is really about innovation. It's for anybody that's really pushing ideas, and it comes from this very natural, genuine place of people will resist ideas. And
Hmm.
I started to get very frustrated by this resistance because we would be in a room, everybody would agree that's a good idea, and yet they'd immediately start throwing up, yeah, but what about this and what about that? And I've just learned to listen for these what I call shutdown phrases.
Hmm.
So in the book, I teach people how to listen for these shutdown phrases, the four different types of shutdown phrases or frictions, as we call it,
Hmm.
how to overcome each of those frictions, and then a genuine toolkit of how to do it that's really taking an empathy-based approach. What about this scares you? What are you worried about? Let's
Hmm.
map that out. Let's talk about it, and really putting them at ease so you can really implement some bold visions. Because people will love to stick with the devil they know. Yes, our current system is terrible, but I hear that all the time. Yeah, you just said it's terrible. Let's give you something better. It's terrible, but it's the one we know.
Right.
And so the book is really 35 years of me doing therapy with our clients in these conference rooms over and over again, and all the lessons that go with it. And and
Sounds
plus
like,
and plus it's funny. I've made
yeah,
it to
well,
be.
I'm sure it is, knowing you a little bit already. So I'm sure it's entertaining. And
Yeah.
you're really hitting on a key topic, and that is that there is resistance to change and resistance to innovation. And it's just an easier place for people to be proud of them, some people to be proud of themselves for coming up with the reasons why something can't work or why it won't be done. In fact, if they put the same energy that they put into telling us why it can't be done into doing it, it would have been done already.
Yeah.
So I've seen that so many times in my life and in my career. And so I think it's a great book that you've written. I'm looking forward to reading it because I'm sure I will laugh my way through it with you and seeing these behaviors that really shouldn't be there but are.
Oh, I'm sure you will have a lot of stories that resonate with the ones that I tell in the book. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So if folks who are listening, watching this wanted to get in touch with you, Eric, how would they do that?
A couple ways they can go to ericcoreyfreed.com if they like. They could also go to frictionlessframework.com. That's the one for the book. They all, all roads lead to me if they like, but that would be it. Yeah.
Great. Well, listen, I certainly want to stay in touch. It's been a great pleasure to meet you and to have this conversation. And I wish you great continued success with everything you're doing to make the world a better place. So, and thanks for all that work.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
All right. God bless. Well, that's it for Driven to Lead today. We really appreciate you being with us. Share this with a friend or a business colleague if you would. And if I could remind you again, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're very grateful for that. So until next time, always remember the high road leads to a better place.